FM News Talk 97.1.
On-demand audio.
Our regular guest, Stephen Yates, foreign policy expert with DCI advisor, DC International Advisory, and former advisor to Dick Cheney as well. Stephen, good afternoon to you.
Hi, Dana. Great to be back with you.
I have to ask you, did you get your revenge out earlier, or are you going to wait and get your revenge tomorrow?
I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way and get my revenge taken care of tomorrow morning at my son's elementary school.
There you go. I thought that was such an odd way for the president to put that. I had to ask. Oh, this is the big story right now. Obviously, still two things with Benghazi that I want to get into with you. First and foremost, the State Department has been stonewalling the media about why on earth there are a number of classified documents that are still in our consulate in Benghazi, just apparently strewn about. And there hasn't been any effort on the part of this administration to obtain those documents because they have very sensitive information that's critical to our national security. There has been no effort to secure the area. Journalists have been getting them. Terrorists have been getting them. What on earth is happening? It's been 50 days after the fact now.
I think that entire situation is astonishing, and I think it's right. You need to sort of separate away what in the world is going on with the State Department and alleged management and accountability for an overseas mission, and then what was done by the White House to deliberately mislead in the days going forward. On the leaving the site, I mean, I thought that when CNN found the journal, that should have been a giant alarm bell to get our guys the heck over there and secure the area. One would have liked to have assumed that what the president said about immediately responding, getting everyone out safe, which of course was not true, they would have at least secured information. But the fact that some foreign policy magazine flunkies can walk around there a month and a half later and find classified information, you just got to believe that this was an absolute dereliction of duty.
Yeah, and this too. I wonder, like what sort of information that's being obtained from all of these papers just laying around over there for anyone to get. Obviously, I would assume that it's stuff that we do not want any of our enemies over in that area to get their hands on.
Any real information is valuable information to them, even if it's as dumb in the eyes of most of us as an unclassified phone book. It might actually be of value to them. If we had a more strategic and maybe darkly maniacal group, we would have put false information there for them to find. But I doubt deeply that any such effort was made to mislead. I think that really what we've got is a situation where the administration wanted at no level to have anything whatsoever to do with this facility and the poor souls who lost their lives there.
Yeah. And now we know as well that the evidence keeps coming out that this administration knew and they had advanced knowledge, not just weeks before, but even right after this attack took place, 2 hours after, they knew that this was a terrorist attack. The president knew. And then CBS recently came out. They just released some additional footage from when Steve Kroft interviewed the president for 60 Minutes. And he says quite definitively that, well, it's too early to tell what this was. He goes out of his way to not call it a terror attack. I think at this point they need to stop saying to the contrary. What do you make of this? What do you make of CBS also sitting on this video?
No kidding. I mean, really, I think number one, the biggest outrage is how far 60 Minutes has fallen in terms of any shred of credibility whatsoever. And remember, this controversy about when the president spoke and said what came up when Crowley interrupted the second debate. Who was the moderator for the final foreign policy debate? CBS's Sunday anchor. Did the CBS Sunday anchor have access to Steve Kroft's information before he prepared questions for that debate? I mean, really, the idea is so obvious that the media sat on information that made very, very clear that President Obama spoke a falsehood and was backed up by CNN's anchor in the middle of that second debate.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to me. It seems as though when media protects a candidate like this, and CBS sitting on it for as long as, and you're right. Here they have a CBS moderator who had access, obviously, to this interview, and they omitted it from airing, and they omitted it from the debates. And here we see 2 days before the election, they release it, and it shows, yeah, absolutely, they knew this entire time. When you hear people, Stephen, try to compare the Obama administration and this dereliction of duty regarding our consulate in Benghazi, a number of progressives have been trying to say, well, George Bush could have prevented 9/11. What is your response to that when you hear those sorts of comparisons?
Well, first and foremost, I think you have to judge leaders on how they respond. I mean, even though a lot of people would like to believe presidents have perfect information ahead of time and can exercise perfect judgment ahead of time, they're humans, overwhelmed, and things can be missed. We can be hit. And after all, it's the perpetrators who are the evildoers in all of this. They're the ones who are doing this. And so I come down harder on how do they respond once we've been hit than I do on just all the pieces get put together. I mean, it's easy also to forget President Bush had barely been in office for very long. There was a long recount. There was a delayed transition. There was a large political fight about tax cuts that now are again popping back up. There was Jeffords switching parties. There was this small business of an EP3 going down to the Chinese holding our men for a number of days. There were a lot of things going on in those 8 months prior to 9/11 that the president was justifiably focusing on. But how did he respond? And I think that was actually George Bush at his best, and I think even Democrats would confess that. And the 90% approval rating he had for the year following that would suggest that's the same. Benghazi is quite the opposite. Now we know for a fact that the president deliberately chose to mislead us in the wake of this attack. And it's a mystery why. I suspect it's a mystery that will not be answered before tomorrow, and maybe not even in the days immediately following.
What do you think of the rumors that they say that this was like a hit? That one of the reasons that military were ordered to stand down because of Chris Stevens is there's some relation, or he knew some information about running weaponry to Syrian rebels. Is there any reason to even think that there's anything valid in those rumors?
I would not want to believe that, but I would be willing to go wherever the evidence presents. Unfortunately, though, evidence has been so dramatically tainted, I doubt very much that we'll ever get a very clear picture on what the facts were on the ground in Libya. I think, however, we can get very clear facts on what did the White House know, when, and why then did they deliberately engage in a fairy tale for a week and a half or more before falsely claiming to have been telling the truth all along. That, I think, is actually more disturbing to me than trying to get the nuts and bolts on the ground right. I think that our operators over time will fix whatever problems led to that problem in terms of keeping facilities safe. And with right leadership, we'll be okay going forward. But you can't really undo the profound loss of presidential leadership and credibility by flat out sending your flacks to lie for you.
Yeah, and what a horrible lie it was. Stephen Yates, DCIadvisory.org. Always a pleasure, and I hope that when we speak next Monday, that it is we're speaking of victories.
As do I. Thank you, Dana.
All right, take care. Always a pleasure.